All right, this vlog is not another fact check. It is
a reality check.
Viva Frei, Montreal litigator turned YouTuber, and every now and again you read a headline that seems so preposterous, so outlandish, so absolutely ludicrous that you think it has to absolutely be fake news. The headline read that Congresswoman Maxine Waters said that Trump absolutely should be charged with premeditated murder. Now, I originally read this headline on Fox News, so I immediately thought it was suspect, but I had to Google it, and no, it turns out Maxine Waters did in fact say in an interview that Trump should be charged with premeditated murder.
What? What the fuck?
But don't take my word for it. Here is the clip so you can watch it for yourself.
As a matter of fact, he absolutely should be charged with premeditated murder because of the lives that were lost with this invasion.
Now, when you are in the vlogging business like me, every now and again there is a meme so perfect, so fitting, so absolutely gloriously applicable to the situation that you just say, thank goodness this news actually occurred, so I get to use this meme, and this is one of those situations, and this is the meme.
As a matter of fact, he absolutely should be charged with premeditated murder.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Now, we are living through incredibly divided times, incredibly politicized times where hyperbolic rhetoric has become the status quo as far as political discourse goes. And in as much as I am a diehard proponent of freedom of speech, and I think people should be able to express themselves without getting canceled, they should be able to say what they think, even if it offends other people, without having their lives and livelihoods ruined, I do think that this hyperbolic rhetoric, when it comes from politicians or people in positions of influence, should be toned down a notch, whether they are on the left or the right. All of these accusations of treason and execution and hangings, other than being actually legally inapplicable to the current situation, should be left out of the political discourse entirely. In my very humble opinion, there is a massive difference between freedom of speech and the freedom to express yourselves without getting fired, canceled, having your bank accounts shut down, and the freedom to make these hyperbolic, over-the-top threats of public execution. I appreciate that the standard is different in Canada versus the US, and in the US, these probably do not qualify as the true threats and are therefore not illegal, but I do think when it comes to political discourse, these things should be just left off the table. Whether it is tweets from famous or infamous attorneys, or Marjorie Greene giving a thumbs up to a Facebook comment, which I will not repeat out loud, but are lyrics to a Rage Against the Machine song. People with influence, elected officials, should act a little more responsibly and tone down the rhetoric, and that includes Maxine Waters. With that said, let's actually look at the legality of what Maxine Waters is suggesting. Maxine Waters is seemingly and unironically suggesting that Donald Trump should actually face charges for premeditated murder on the basis that the speech he gave on Capitol Hill directly led to the riots where people breached the Capitol Hill, leading to the death of a police officer and one of the rioters. She is seriously suggesting that this qualifies in law as premeditated murder by Donald Trump. For any of you out there who might have any lingering doubts on the absurdity of this claim, let's just go ahead and read at the very least what the heck was that? At the very least, the federal definition of premeditated murder. What was that? Oh, it was snow being splashed on my office from a passing car. 18 United States Code Section 1111, murder. Murder is the unlawful killing of a human being with malice aforethought. Every murder perpetrated by poison, lying in wait, or any kind of willful, deliberate, malicious, or premeditated killing, or committed in the perpetration of or attempt to perpetrate any arson, escape, murder, kidnapping, treason, espionage, sabotage, and it goes on. So the reasoning here, assuming there is any reasoning whatsoever, is that Donald Trump is guilty of premeditated murder by virtue of the fact that he gave a speech which, according to Maxine Waters, directly incited the crowd to riot and enter Capitol Hill, and therefore Donald Trump is responsible for murder in the first degree of the 5 deaths that occurred that day.
That doesn't make sense.
And if you actually go read through the comment section on the MSNBC interview where Maxine Waters made these statements, you're gonna probably see way too many people who are actually convinced by this reasoning. Needless to say, at the very least, as far as the legal standard is concerned, this is an absolutely baseless accusation to make, but obviously this accusation was not made for legal reasons, it was made only for political reasons. But let's for a moment entertain Maxine Waters' reasoning, and let's apply her own reasoning to her own conduct. The theory here is that Donald Trump's words directly incited this riot, and therefore Donald Trump is directly responsible for the deaths that resulted. Now, in fairness to Maxine Waters, there can in theory be circumstances where someone could be guilty of premeditated murder simply by virtue of the words they spoke, even if they didn't actually carry out the murder themselves. Such an example would be contract killing. In the context of contract killing, where one person hires another person to kill another person, the person who hired the actual murderer doesn't actually kill anybody. All they do is speak some words to a third party, and they are nonetheless guilty of premeditated murder. If a contract killer hires somebody for the specific purpose of murdering a third party, the person who hired the murderer can themselves be found guilty of premeditated murder. So what Maxine Waters is basically saying here is that Donald Trump's speech, where he called on protesters to peacefully protest on Capitol Hill, that is tantamount to taking out a contract on someone else's life. Alrighty, with that established, now let's apply that standard to Maxine Waters' own historical conduct. And for those of you who don't remember, Maxine Waters was on national television calling for people to form a mob and absolutely harass political rivals. Don't believe me? Nor should you. Here are the video clips so you can watch it for yourself.
For these members of his cabinet who remain and try to defend him, they're not going to be able to go to a restaurant. They're not going to be able to stop at a gas station. They're not going to be able to shop at a department store. The people are going to turn on them. They're going to protest. They're going to absolutely harass them until they decide that they're going to tell the president, no, I can't hang with you. This is wrong. This is unconscionable. We can't keep doing this to children. You have members of your cabinet that are being booed out of restaurants, who have protesters taking up at their house, who's saying no peace, no sleep. No peace, no sleep. And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
Now, depending on your political affiliation, you might think what Maxine Waters said is over the top, 10 times worse than anything Donald Trump said. You might think what Donald Trump said is 10 times worse than what Maxine Waters said. But I think we can all agree, political affiliation aside, assuming Maxine Waters' own standard, what she said
is bad.
By Maxine Waters' own reasoning and standards, if what Donald Trump said could justify charges of premeditated murder, so too could what Maxine Waters said. But being the lawyer who sees all sides, Maxine Waters' defense would certainly be, well, no one actually acted on what I said, so I couldn't be guilty of premeditated murder. Okay, fine, you can only be guilty of
attempted murder then.
The whole point is that when people systematically abuse of the meaning of words to the point where words cease to have meaning, it actually does an injustice to the system of justice itself. When you dilute the meaning of words, you are actually doing an injustice to the victims themselves. And for anybody out there who's saying Maxine Waters is just being hyperbolic, she doesn't mean it seriously, I happen to think she means it seriously because I saw that interview and it looked like she meant it seriously. Set that aside because we will never be able to determine the intentions of the individual. Let's just appreciate the consequences of what she's suggesting. Hyperbolic rhetoric or serious rhetoric? Maxine Waters is saying that Donald Trump should be charged with premeditated murder. What are the penalties for premeditated murder? Within the special maritime and territorial jurisdiction of the United States, whoever is guilty of murder in the first degree shall be punished by death or by imprisonment for life.
Punished by death.
Maxine Waters, who is on air complaining about abuse and intimidation, is actually making accusations of a former president of the United States that is punishable by death. And for anybody who has been around this channel for remotely long enough, you know what I'm thinking right now. Hashtag confession through projection. The bottom line, all of this hyperbolic rhetoric, despite the fact that it is probably all legal and protected under the First Amendment, it all needs to be toned down just a scotch, but it's probably not going to happen because politicians actually don't want unity. They thrive on disunity. Government is a make-work project, and the last thing the government wants to do is actually solve problems to the point where they are no longer needed. My only recommendation, turn off this mainstream media garbage, get out of that toxic environment, and above all else, don't let your ideological adversaries turn you into the extremist, because if they do, then they win. Tone it down, talk it out, and actually try to understand each other. And with that said, if you like my videos, you like my content, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, drop a comment in the comment section below because it feeds the algorithm.
Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
If you want to support the channel, all of these support links are in the pinned comment. We've got PayPal, Patreon, subscribe to our YouTube membership. Robert Barnes and I have a page on Locals. It is called vivabarneslaw.locals.com. All of my content is on Rumble. And stay tuned. I have some very good news that I want to share with the world, but I didn't want to do it in this video given the subject matter of this video. And no, my wife is not pregnant. But above all else, take care of yourselves. Check in on friends and family. Make sure everyone around you is doing well. And now you know your vlog. Peace out. Booyah!